A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this 122nd edition of Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. We at Notebook, over the last 1 year and a few months, have had the privilege of hosting these Together for Education webinars. Well, back in April 2020, when the pandemic had just started, we at Notebook felt that this was a great opportunity to bring together all our esteemed educators onto one platform where they could share their thoughts, their problems, seek solutions. Well, little did we know that more than a year later, I would be welcoming all of you to the 122nd edition. For the love and support that this event has received from each and every one of you, I sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart. We have discussed a myriad range of topics over these so many months. We've discussed the curricular topics, various subjects and their implications, co-curriculars like sports, even topics like mental health. One of the things that we keep talking about was how we were perhaps teaching our kids concepts for careers that existed yesterday. And we were not very sure if those careers would even exist a few years down the line. Somewhere along the way, we saw the new education policy being released, which is a massive step forward in giving a student the freedom to choose subjects as per their liking once they go into the senior secondary level. However, here is a bit of a problem. Because when we start school, we have very basic subjects like English, maths, maybe another language. A little older, you add EVS to it. The student crosses class 6, and we have social science and physical sciences coming into it. By the time you cross your class 10 and go into class 11, now you're talking about subjects like physics, chemistry, and biology instead of one science. And this keeps on widening. With any widening array of choices, there is obviously the widening array of confusions. Which subject to take? What career to choose? What vocation are you best suited for? Well, today we look at careers and career counseling in schools as our topic. Our first speaker to speak on this topic today is Achin Bhattacharya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is a fellow of the ICAI and a member of CPA Australia and CPA Ireland. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. Achin is an avid reader and a passionate traveler with keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Shubha, am I audible?
Yeah, Achin, loud and clear.
I once again welcome all of you to today's session. It's a wet Wednesday. It has been pouring heavily and non-stop since morning. An hour back, when I looked outside my office window, I saw something very common, yet very touching. I saw a father and his daughter, maybe on their way to an interview. With heavy monsoon showers having unleashed all its fury on the streets of Kolkata, the man was trying to shield his daughter with everything he had: a small umbrella, a plastic folder in which I'm sure she had her CV. Just then, my phone vibrated and I got a reminder of today's topic: career counseling. For the current generation, expertly guided through life's transitions from preschool to college, fresh job hunt indeed is scary. Now, coming back to today's topic, to understand it better, we need to ask a simple question to students and request them to try and answer it as honestly as possible. Do you really want to study the subjects you have chosen or the job you are currently pursuing? If your answer is yes, I'm happy for you. But if your answer is no, don't be surprised. You are among the 85% of people who also feel like you. Now, we seek advice for each and everything in our day-to-day lives, be it what to wear, which phone to buy, what to watch, where to go to hang out. And then why not seek guidance for such crucial decision of their lives, like career choices. Another problem that we commonly face is a level of awareness about various new age careers, which is severely low, right? Now, for instance, today, uh, if we discuss about things like a travel agent, once we knew it was a flourishing business, but today with the advent of internet, so many travel sites, very often people are self-sufficient. So, ironically, career counseling as a field is still not majorly accepted and appreciated, even though there's a huge need for it. Because if you consider the requirements of new age, if you consider, that at times it's important that be aware about the data, about the changing trends, and we indeed need someone who is a specialist. Now, should I just give me a second? Now, most of the developed countries have a strong structure for career guidance. So, be it at school or at professional level, which helps an individual decide their further course of action. I think it's high time that we also recognize the importance of career counseling, not only for students' career development, but I think also for the nation's development. Now, according to Guardian, about 600 billion people in India are less than 25 years old. And this data that I'm telling you is few years back. So we all know that no country is as uniquely poised as India in terms of demographic dividend. So I think hence there is a dire need for our youngsters to be guided and led on a career path that is right for them. Just imagine that if this force were in the fields of their choice, or options which are based on their skills, their aptitude, no one can stop us as a nation from walking towards the path of being a developed economy. Recently, there was a survey by Mindler of more than 10,000 students. And the findings indicate that 93% of students were aware about just 7 career options, whereas there are more than 250 career options at present in India. Now, given this information, I think people very often are pursuing careers that may not be appropriate for them. And hence, what is the solution? Career counseling, of course. Now, consider a scenario. Suppose you are trying to learn something new. For instance, something as simple as, may not be simple, but something as interesting as baking a cake. Would it not be easier to do it with someone guiding you on the side rather than you learning to do everything on your own? Right? Very often we take help. Maybe at least a good video on YouTube, which really takes us to the steps. Now, career counseling to me is very similar with regard to guidance when it comes to making career choices. A process where an expert, a professional helps a student. A process that focuses on helping a student understand his or her own self. At the end of the day, the choice has to be made by the student. But we need someone to talk to us and to find out that what are the current work trends, so that one can make a much more informed decision about career and education. Because the whole objective is to manage a diverse range of problems, such as low concentration level, poor time management, trust issues, the family. Because these are again very important. At times, the child may want to do something. Parents, out of their best intention for the child, might have their own concern. So a professional coming in, of course, adds a lot of value. Now, coming to the process, this process commonly involves, of course, there are variants, and every professional has his or her own way of doing it. But normally, this commonly involves taking a psychometric assessment and then meeting a counselor. So the moment a student takes an assessment, it helps him or her to find out and assess, be it current interest, aptitude, emotional quotient, personality characteristics, and orientation style. So once you take the assessment, you can, then plan further by meeting a professional. Now, a career counselor most of the times listens patiently. Because at the end of the day, the student has to make the choice. His or her role is, of course, in terms of guiding and developing a framework or a specific plan to achieve goals. The other important aspect is aptitude, which to me is very, very important. And also how it is assessed. Because one of the key elements in career counseling is aptitude. We may have a number of interests, but we may not have the aptitude for it, which refers to our current skill set, and based on that, our ability to learn specific skills. Very often, aptitude tests measure a set of 10 different aptitudes. For instance, like numerical, verbal, spatial, creative, etc. Now, these are time tests that assess a student's ability based on specific questions under each heading. The students often worry, and rightfully so. At any point of time, these are common conversations in any campus, and esteemed educators here, of course, are aware about them. Especially when someone is entering college or just about to, come out of campus after finishing graduation, just about to start their careers. That am I good enough at what I'm doing to get ahead? Or self-doubts, like are other people taking a better route? And career ambition, especially at middle school and maybe, very often the range is huge. The range is very varied. It swings from, something as different from being an astronaut to a bureaucrat, to an entrepreneur or a biologist or a chemist, and maybe a theater artist. So students are more confused than ever about what the next step is. And we all know that the current generation of students, of course, is not applicable to everyone. There are students at each layer of the socio-economic pyramid. There are students with their own set of challenges that they are undergoing. But in many cases, in general, this current generation of students, and when I say this, of course, vis-a-vis how things were, as far as what their parents faced a few decades back, have been given a lot of resources and advice. Now, my deliberation, I'll try to see what the impact has been. Because personal career guidance, to be very honest, and if we take a wholesome view, if we take a 360-degree view, at times personal career guidance may not be affordable for one and all. Of course, it's good, there's no doubt about it. But in all practicality, parents who can afford the same, of course, look at it as a cost of launching a child into adulthood, like tutoring. Now, very often, educated parents, informed parents want it to be a deliberate step, not something that happens naturally. Because through the process of counseling, students understand not only their strengths, but also very important values that they relate to, which is as important as strength. Values like honesty, accountability, kindness, integrity, and also unearth interest. The whole objective is to also to uncover talents and tendencies. So it's all about students learning about themselves. Now, to parents, such plotted reminiscence sound foreign at times. Many feel that they were born in luckier times, Naturally, the competition that was there in 2 to 3 decades back, vis-a-vis what we see today, the entire world has changed. Thus, hopscotching your way to a career these days definitely is risky, given increasing competition, escalating students' loans. Very often, before they come out of the campus, they know that, okay, this is what I have to repay. So naturally, students worry about matching parent success, and at times it is a challenge. There's a fear of downward mobility in the society, and very often we see this with the children whose parents are very successful. The fear of downward mobility, fear of being compared, and a sense that we have to get this right, which I feel is very unfair because each human being deserves a chance to live life his or her own way. But these are realities. Students have reasons to fret. At times, there are so many choices in a furiously evolving career landscape that they face an entirely different reality than what their parents face. The students must figure out what they care about and where to jump on. And they naturally want professional help in doing it. So the role of counselor to students is increasing with each passing year. Even if you look at, for instance, if you look at the ratio also, counselors to students, in most of the cases, you will see awareness definitely is increasing, which is a very good sign. Parents have high expectation naturally for such services because the whole resource-centered approach, especially in affluent families, affluent societies, the whole concept of resource center, that is okay, there's a common pool of counselors, resource center, and students can avail it. Slowly, this is giving way to a more customized and tailored approach, where a career plan needs to be devised for a particular student after spending significant time with him or her. Also, increasing use of social media, I think this creates tremendous pressure. Tremendous pressure. The moment someone finds his or her first job and the first social media post is out, and you have hundreds of comments and likes. So naturally, there's a huge peer pressure that builds. And it's very hard to enjoy life if you're focused on what everyone else is doing. And that's all the time, 24/7, no respite. So being out, front with perfect career move has suddenly become a social necessity. Again, very, very unfair, very wrong. But then that's the reality. Somehow, I think we have created a generation that doesn't want to make a mistake or fail. And of course, our responsibility goes to all stakeholders who are equally responsible. Any parent, any teacher want the best for their children. But at some point, they have to also do it on their own. So the question is, are today's children overcoached? So, as going through excerpts of a very, very appropriate book in this regard, How to Raise an Adult, I found that very interesting. This is written by a former dean at Stanford, Julie Hames. And according to the author, what we want is for them not to be continually looking over their shoulders for a parent or hired counselor to tell them what the next steps are. A first job that ends up a poor fit may look like a mistake, but the author feels that she regards that as really important information because at times failures naturally they are building blocks for later stages of your career. So as the job scene grows more complex, students need even more confidence to manage setback and plot moves. So this entire notion that you always need someone to guide you, and again, we are discussing things from a 360-degree perspective, both the pros as well as the cons. These are not my personal views. These are what I was going through this book, which I found very interesting. So this whole notion that we always need someone to come and tell us what is right and wrong. The fact that at times we feel that we don't have the wherewithal to figure it out ourselves, I think at times it's damaging and it could hurt job success. There's a survey which was conducted in 2014 in California State University. So this survey, there was a sample of around 482 students that were taken. And it was found out that those with the most intense helicopter parenting felt less able to make decisions. So they gave maladaptive responses to workplace scenarios. And according to one of the professors who did the study, he felt that this overcoaching is one of the biggest menaces, biggest challenges that the current generation is facing. When asked how they would respond to a negative review from an employer, which can always happen in any job, and that again should be a passing phase, just one stage in your career. And the focus rightfully should be on how one can improve. But many out of those 482 students who were surveyed, many said that they were more likely to quit and argue that the rating was unfair, or ask, even the worst, last part, very, very, I found that very unfortunate, or ask their parent to call their manager at work. They also responded that suddenly, if they wake up with a bad cold on the day of a job fair, they are more likely to think that to them the best possible solution is to request their parent to take their resume and distribute it to their potential employers in a job fair. Now, the parents who press to get their children on this kind of mindset, at times, actually, it damages them. It doesn't do any good for them. Because while riding the bumps is one thing, and falling flat on is another. And at times, it may be hard to tell the difference. The labor market definitely is challenging radically. We all know that the whole scenario is changing very rapidly. Thus, with each passing day, we see more automation. We see things getting automated. We see processes being structured. So thus, the expectation of employers also, day by day, undoubtedly is increasing. So thus, I think in today's economy, it's far more demanding and complex. And thus, employers naturally look forward to well-rounded individuals, not only good in terms of their domain knowledge, but also equally resilient, good team players, good with making interesting conversations, which are all important in today's scenario. Very often, if you see the other side of the story, as to why, because now we were discussing the challenges of overcoaching, etc. But also the reality is that today, if you look at things from the perspective of a young adult, someone walking out of the campus, it's important that he or she knows how to project who they are. Contrary to what some may think, a very common question in any interview, the first thing that comes to all of our mind, tell me about yourself, tell me something about yourself. It's not a prod to recite your chronology. According to career coaches, we should translate it as, how do you fit with this position? Why should we hire you? So dispensing tips and common sense is simple. The harder task, especially for students, is to follow a recipe for success, is answering questions. And at times questions are very broad. What do you care about? So getting a good answer, which will honestly speaking, project the strength of the candidate, at times may be very tough for young adults. So for many, confidence also has been an issue. Very often, young adults, during interaction, etc., that okay, should I say this, or should I say something else, etc. So these are challenges. So on one hand, we would all agree that undoubtedly this is the right way forward. It is important to seek professional help. It is important that students get maximum possible help with regard to making right decisions. Because at times, it's not about looking out for a career just because someone else in the neighborhood has opted for that. Not just because someone in the extended family is very successful following that particular career. I think it's more to do with what he or she wants to do. So this whole conversation, the moment an external professional comes in with a very objective assessment, so be it of strength, be it of challenges, be it of values that the student associate with, be it with current emerging trends in the market, it's a far more structured and professional decision which helps everyone on board. So I think these were a few thoughts that I wanted to share with all of you. I thank you for giving me a patient hearing. We have a great panel here today, of course, with lots of experience, and I look forward to hear from them, their perspective on this very important topic. Over to you, Shubhai.
Thank you so much, Achin. Thank you for giving us the perfect foundation and groundwork for the discussion that is to follow. And as Achin mentioned, we do have a stellar panel lined up for all of you today. Well, before we start the panel discussion, just a few things that I wanted to let you know of. One is about us here at Notebook. We at Notebook are an EdTech product. What we do is we make short videos pertaining to the school curriculum, which means these videos can work both for teachers as well as students. You as teachers, when you're taking your class, you can play these videos as part of your class. Each video is only 6 to 10 minutes long, and therefore they offer the perfect visual medium for your students to have a visual understanding of the topic that you are teaching. On the other side, the students have access to these videos on their personal devices. Whether it's a smartphone or a laptop or any device that they have at home, they can access Notebook videos. Which also means that months after you have taken the class, a student can go back and watch these videos again and again, and not only get a better, clearer idea of the topic, but also get reminded of what you as a teacher taught in class that day. What I'm going to do now is play you a short clip of one of the Notebook videos so that you know exactly what our content looks like.
Let's now discuss the circular flow of income in an economy with the production and use of these goods. Imagine the simplest kind of economy possible, where there is no government, such as a tribal economy. There is only consumption and production in a tribal economy. Production should equal consumption in these economies, as otherwise there would be wastage. So in a simple economy, it is assumed that production is equal to consumption. What about the value of the goods produced and sold? Can you give me a hint? Well, if production equals consumption, the value of goods consumed should also equal to the value of goods produced. Now, let's explain this in terms of a two-sector closed economy. A simple economy is a closed economy. There is no interference from external markets. We are only looking at goods and services provided by households and factor services provided by firms or producers.
So ladies and gentlemen, that's what a Notebook video looks like. High quality hand-drawn illustrations, expert teachers, and simple illustrations that drive home a point. Well, if you head on to our website, www.notebook.school, you would find more than 10,000 such videos at your disposal. Besides content, Notebook also specializes in organizing events such as the one that you're attending right now. We are also currently organizing Ignite in collaboration with IIM Calcutta Innovation Park. This is an international inter-school online innovation and entrepreneurship challenge. We have asked young students to become entrepreneurs, to come up with business plans, innovative ideas that they are sharing in front of judges from IIM Calcutta. And what phenomenal ideas we have seen so far. 64 teams were shortlisted for the qualifiers. We are just left with a few more qualifiers, and from next week, we will get on with the semifinals. The top 24 teams from the qualifiers will make it to the semifinals. The top 12 teams from the semifinals make it to the grand finale, which is on 15th August. I cordially invite each and every one of you to attend the Ignite events because we are seeing some of the most innovative ideas that we have ever come across. Also, as part of the Ignite program, we have conducted a few master classes. These are free, open for all classes. Any teacher, student, or really anybody who wants to join can join them and learn from masters. We had initial 3 master classes about business planning and pitching your business, which was conducted by IIM Calcutta. I'm thrilled and excited to announce that next Sunday, on 8th of August at 4 p.m., we have a masterclass that will be conducted by none other than Mr. Sunil Kanoria. Mr. Kanoria is the Vice Chairman of Shrey Infrastructure Finance Limited. He started from humble beginnings to being at the helm of one of India's largest holistic infrastructure institutions and has traversed an incredible entrepreneurial journey. He has had the distinction of serving ASSOCHAM, India's oldest and leading chamber of commerce, as a president. He currently is the Honorary Consul of Spain in Kolkata. He is the former president of the Agri-Horticultural Society of India and has served as a member of the construction sector in the 10th five-year plan of the Planning Commission of the Government of India. He is a council member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, nominated by the Government of India. I'm sure listening to an entrepreneur of his caliber and his experience would be quite a once-in-a-lifetime experience. As I said, it's absolutely free of charge and it's open to anybody who would want to join. I would also like to extend a warm invitation to each and every one of you to be a part of the dialogue that day. Well, ladies and gentlemen, those were the announcements. Sorry about that. Those were the announcements that I had. It is now my privilege to introduce the wonderful panel that we have with us today. We are privileged to have with us Mrs. Rita P. Taneja, who's an educationist with over 30 years of experience in school education. She's an educator, a principal, teacher trainer, researcher, mentor, and content developer for CBSE, resource person for CBSE and RBSE, and a QMS lead auditor. She is the treasurer of Jaipur Sahodaya Schools Complex, a member of School Management Committee of St. Edmund School, Subodh Public School, Rambagh, Jaipur, executive member in Department of Science and Technology, Rajasthan, member of the core committee on Jaipur Declaration, making schools safe for children in Rajasthan, and an ambassador for Clean India campaign in Jaipur. She has attended international study programs to understand and integrate the teaching pedagogy, resulting in a multi-dimensional and cross-cultural approach, motivating the school to take a dynamic approach, becoming the International Schools Awardee by the British Council for 3 consecutive terms from 2013 to 2022. Her contributions in the fields of education and social service has won many accolades, and felicitations include President APJ Abdul Kalam Enlightened Citizen Award, Life Empowerment Awards for Schools, Avantika Honors, Rotary Club, Lions Club, Exceptional Women's Award from Women Economics Forum. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here. It's a privilege to have you back here.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, ma'am. We also have with us today Mrs. Sharmila Mukherjee, who is the principal of the Kerala Public School in Kadma, Jamshedpur. She herself is a postgraduate in English and has done her B.Ed from RC Bhubaneswar. She has an enriching experience of 25 years in teaching. With her able guidance, the school has received the International School Award, ISA, in 2019. Students of her school have participated and won in national and international events in sports. Teaching is a passion, and she loves creativity and innovation. Ma'am, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. It's a privilege to have you. I shall stop the share now, switch on my camera so that we can see each other. Once again, a very good evening and welcome to Together for Education Month. Well, I have a few questions for you that I hope will help structure the discussion, but this is an open discussion, so feel free to dive in whenever you want. Ritama, if I may come to you first. First of all, congratulations on your team's performance at Ignite. Very, very well done by your students. When we're talking about career counseling today, now this is very important for students in their advanced classes 11 and 12, which is also the age when students are least likely to listen to advice. How do you manage this?
Good evening, Chivayu. Thank you for the elaborate introduction. And yes, I think this is the most sensitive topic for all us educators and parents also. Yes, children need to be given the career counseling at the secondary and the senior secondary level. And that is the age of stress and storm. They are teenagers and they would not be happy if you are guiding them or cajoling them into something which they do not want to do. So I think that is the most important thing that you have asked, is that we need to build a very, very happy rapport with them. We need to make them understand the need for, of course, career guidance and counseling, because career decision, I think, is one of the easily the most important decision in any student's life. And career one pursues affects almost every aspect of life of an individual. Needless to say, the way career decisions are taken by majority of us is highly unscientific, and chances of success are likely like rolling a dice maybe. So yes, as adults around them, we need to motivate them, we need to talk to them, we need to create an environment where they feel the need for the career guidance to be given by adults around them. We need to be friendly enough to ask their need analysis, to understand their interest, to understand what motivates them, to make them connect with the real life world of work. If they do not have the real experience of how the world of work looks like or is, with shadowing or internships or some other programs, the children will be far from ready to listen to us. It will only appear as some pravachans given by the senior members. And definitely to build up this is not very easy. We are living in the world where the jobs are emerging day by day, even of which we are not aware, and we do not have sufficient knowledge to give them. So the only important thing that I feel as an educator would be to make them ready to explore on their own, but give them the basic information that they need to know and explain to them right when we are teaching in the classes. That is to integrate career counseling in our day-to-day teaching. Whenever there's a lesson of history, we should try and somewhere insert the word architect and explain who an architect is and what an architect does. When we are doing poetry, we can take up the any career option which is available with the subject content of English. When somebody is doing physics, they should talk about physicist. In the commerce, we should talk about the life insurance and the actuaries. So this is the only way that teachers can integrate career information to our children, where they will be ready to accept the facts also in a kind of way which is open, which makes them ask relevant questions, which makes them think as to why they need to have proper information before they take the leap for the most important decision of their life. They should know what a job is, what a career is, how they are different, how they are to be selected. And in fact, I think there are many movies right now, like Lakshay, fashion, modeling. There's so many. I think Munna Bhai and Jolly LLB. We need to relax. We need to tell them, relate all these movies to career orientation, make use of the content, the resources which are easily available, which children understand and they're able to associate themselves with. And then only can we tell them what are the real job descriptions like, the titles, what they need to prepare to enter that, what are the opportunities, what are the salaries and the perks, because that is very attractive to any young teenager. So until and unless as a teacher, I myself have been trained into these practices, how am I supposed to rather transact this information to my students? A career counselor's job is going to be a tough call, because they will not listen to just somebody coming barging in the classroom and just disseminating the information, because all these opportunities to learn, to think, have to be provided, integrated in their curriculum itself. Then only the children who are having the basic information, they should be allowed to explore their interest, their aptitude, their attitude, and then only they should be led towards a formal system of career guidance. So with the help of so many resources which are easily available, we only require an observant, a caring adult or a teacher around the children who can lead them on to make use of these experiences, the learning experiences, and then work on a robust system where these can be step by step led towards enhancing their knowledge, awareness, so that they can enhance their opportunities to excel in the careers that they wish to choose. What do they have to study? Which courses are reliable? How valid they are they accredited? So that their time, money, and effort is not wasted. They should not be driven with glamour of the jobs. They should actually know what the profile of a job looks like, is actually. What are the duties? Everything should be told to them in a very, very clear, interactive manner. Then only the teenagers of this age, who are the digital natives, can they look up to us to find genuine information, which is precisely organized. And somewhere in the school, somewhere we should, all the even the activities that we do. I think right from the class KG, when we ask our children to dress up in the fancy dress of our helpers, we are introducing them to careers. If the schools can mindfully plan the activities right from as early as class KG, class 1, we are leading them to think. And with the career orientation, when we give them about the subject choices, again, we are taking them in a very concrete way towards deciding what do they want to do. Us, it has to be a totality. The experience has to be given in totality, where they realize what their interest, aptitudes, and the basics are, what their background is, what is their family background, what are the economics, what is the optimum that they can achieve, what is the potential they can achieve, what are their strengths, what are their weakness, help them to do a SWOT analysis. It's not complicated. It is just a complex procedure which has to be clearly, slowly simplified to the child. And slowly, if we are mindfully doing this, I'm sure the children will listen to us and they will take our advice and build a successful career. So yes, all the teachers need to be trained into a basic counseling process, which I think I come from a CBSE school, I can speak for it. CBSE has got a lot of trainings now in place, very short training modules where the teachers can attend, know how they have to integrate career counseling into their academics without becoming a burden upon themselves or the children. And nowadays with the net and this pandemic has taught us, everything has become so much open, but we have to tell our children what to serve, what to look, just navigate them towards finding the right information. Rest, I think they are smarter generation than us also. They will do well, but yes, it has to be done in a very friendly manner, very slowly. They have to be brought into the process right as early as possible by the teachers concerned. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think that part about, leaving it to the student to find the information is very interesting. Mrs. Mukherjee, if I may come to you next. Good evening, ma'am. Would you have a similar thought about how do you convince students to even listen to this? Because career is a very esoteric term for most 17-year-olds. They're more interested in the next movie, the next plan with friends, the next outing. And you are talking to them about career, which they're anyways going to look at you and say, some boring elderly person is giving me gyan. That's the very innate, natural reaction of a 17-year-old. How do you break that barrier down?
Thank you, Shivayu. Very good evening to all the panelists, teachers and students. It's a real honor for me to be a part of this forum to discuss on career counseling. Thank you for inviting me. Definitely, I would like to share my views on this. Let me tell you a little about my school, Kerala Public School, Kadba, situated in Jamshedpur. We are a school which caters to nursery to standard 12. And we have a motto, we believe every child is a winner. With this motto, we have a very structured approach to provide holistic education. We conduct 21 hobbies for our students, ranging from Orators Club, Dramatics, Electronics Club, Robotic, Music, Drama, so on. And we just conducted every week. We have activities which are conducted every Wednesday across the school to motivate children to participate. And these activities are literary as well as curricular activities. This is basically done to hone or improve the basic skills of the students. Because statistics reveal that when career option is based on skills and hobbies, work satisfaction increases. Hence, there is increase in happiness quotient also. So with that belief, we give a lot of emphasis on these activities which are incorporated in the day-to-day activities. Standard 9 onwards, students get the opportunity to choose subjects like fashion designing and art application, which is fine arts, in ICC and ISC. We are the only school in Jamshedpur to provide this subject to our students from the past 12 years. And many of our students have taken it up as a career. So they get exposure to this subject right from the school. We also conduct PD classes for our students of high school and the senior secondary children. PD classes is incorporated in the class timetable of 11 and 12. An annual calendar is made. Experts and professionals are invited to address the students and apprise them of the different career options. And here we call the experts from the non-conventional careers, not the engineering or the medical, but careers related to arts, sculpture, designing. and that students have an exposure to these careers. Not only that, we conduct surveys to this for the students, and also we take the feedback from the students on their needs and requirements. So not only this, our school counselor conducts sessions for the skill development. Now, for the past 18 months, since we are conducting online classes, so the regular sessions were not conducted, but then we had conducted the same activities, hobbies online along with academics. So we have incorporated this in our schedule. Not only that, every month our students are attending webinars conducted by different professionals like Navy, Marine, Aviation. So it is like they are given exposure to different kinds of career. Our high school students also attended webinars conducted by different universities where new courses are being initiated, like liberal arts. So these are some courses which students do not have exposure to. In universities like Ashoka University, Flame University, OP Jindal University, study in US, study in UK. So these universities are conducting regular webinars for the students so that they can pick and choose according to their area of interest. So these are certain measures taken by the school to initiate the basic skill development of the students right from scratch, that right from the basic years, so that the students can take it up as a career later on. And of course, these webinars help a lot. And I believe there are 3 C's in career. That is, number 1 is the course, number 2 is the college, and number 3 is the career. So course, of course, depends on the interest and passion of the individual. Based on that, they can choose the college. And once they have graduated from the college, they look for the proper placement. So at times they need the help of a professional counselor. Our teachers are also given regular training on counseling by a school counselor so that they can cater to the basic needs of the students. That is how we plan a career counseling right from the beginning in the foundation years.
Wonderful, ma'am. Good to hear about so many activity clubs. I wish when I was in school, we had so many clubs, because every time we would come up with an activity to do, which was typically the result of us being up to some mischief, we would have to kind of form our own clubs and do things.
Absolutely.
Ma'am, if I may stay with you for a bit, given this last 1 year and the situation that we have seen, social structures have changed somewhat, right? You typically had the doctors and engineers being the more lucrative career options, and then you have the lawyers and the CAs and others, which had the science, commerce, humanities hierarchy. In the last 1 year, the most popular, the most well-paid even people in India are content creators, people who have written web series and produced them, stand-up comedians who have put out tons of content on social media, mental health specialists, which would typically be English, creative writing, and psychology. Is this career prism, so to say, turned upside down now? Would you advise students differently post-pandemic?
Yes, I agree with you. In the last 18 months, there's a paradigm shift in the entire education sector. The new technology has been adapted. There's a seamless transition, and it is absolutely virtual teaching environment beyond the classrooms. So the careers also, there are a lot of new careers that has come, and it is a good opening for the students. Students need to explore these careers, and they have, in fact, that is what we encourage in our schools. We want our students to pick up the non-conventional careers rather than the conventional engineering and medical options. So this is a great opportunity for the students, though in the pandemic there was a lot of suffering, but yet it has opened a lot of doors, a lot of opportunities have been exposed to the students. In fact, universities also have prepared to meet the COVID challenges, an unprecedented situation, but we have a very robust technological development. There are massive open online courses. So right now the students can opt for these, and students can take up these short courses, diploma courses online, and they can upgrade their skills sitting at home, which was not available earlier. So in that manner, it has enhanced the skill development of the students a lot.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Tanuja ma'am, if I may come across to you with the same question, would you now actually say that if you're the troublemaker in class, there's this bright future awaiting you as a stand-up comedian?
Very tricky question. No, I would still advise the child that the child should explore his or herself, have a 360 view of what the child is capable of, what the interests are, what the long term gains can be. But yes, with the technology, now things have evolved, and definitely the order of the day is technology driven. Definitely, I would want my children to be equipped, upscaling in technology, investing in technology, learning with technology, and I'm sure they'll be able to make a bright future of it. We as schools are all academically oriented and driven by our marks still. The emphasis has not changed as yet. But still, definitely, the best thing would be to let the children make a choice of their own, but provide them enough experiences, because in school, that is the only place where simulated exercises can be done, so that they can explore in a very safe situation in the school what they are good at, what they would like to do, what they would like to enjoy, and whether it will sustain them in the long run. So definitely, as ma'am has just said, we are lucky that CBSE has given us a beautiful system of having clubs, integrating a lot of activities, hobbies, and children are able to know what they want to do. Plus, we all have very good alumni system in our schools. The alumni keeps coming back. They keep talking about their own experiences, sharing, and they are better than us because they are right now very fresh in their careers wherever they are going. So they are able to give a first-hand stance to the children and lead them on. Again, I would never like to emphasize, definitely give them opportunities, let them explore, but be ready for the information that they ask. So it's very important for us as teachers to keep on updating our skill bank, our knowledge bank, so whenever a child comes to us, we are able to give authentic information or lead them to get the authentic information from the experts. We all have special educators, we all have career counselors in our school. A lot of orientation is being given. In fact, the pandemic era saw more of everything, and it was all student based. We made sure the children were not stressed. We made sure, as you said about mental health, we made sure they were looked after, and we tried to rope in all that we could. Whatever I knew as an educator, I put it into practice, so the children were safe, they were connected, and the children who are on the verge of selecting the subjects were given enough information for them to make a informed choice. So it is up to the children what they want, but I'm sure all the schools across India are providing them a good stage to explore and do simulations so that they know where they stand and what can they do and achieve.
Wonderful, ma'am. Which also leads me to a question that, you said schools are very marks oriented. Now we've just had board results come out, and the way the typical bell curve of the marks have, taken a skew, and statistically speaking, now colleges would find it more and more difficult to judge students based on marks alone, which a lot of colleges were doing. Do you think now we are going to slowly move into a system where statements of purpose is going to come into play, and a student is finally going to look at a course for the purpose of landing somewhere, and not just because this is from so and so college and fits my marks bracket?
There are the good institutions already have the entrance exams, they have the aptitude tests, and LOR. Of course, it is very important for the recommendation. And when we give a letter of recommendation, it is the overall 360 view again of the child, whether the child has been a part of the prefectural council, the student council, how many activities he has indulged in, has he done some community service. So all that we do for the foreign universities is now becoming true for our own schools and colleges also. And the children know that they have to be all-rounders. They are devoting their time towards studies and also trying to develop their personality. In the past, I think we used to only say the cliche term holistic development. Today, schools are actually working at it. And whatever result has come, I think everybody should be very satisfied with the result, because it was the historical performance of the children itself which came out as a result. So however skewed it may be with the, I don't know, here and there, maybe there were some schools which played, I don't know, but it was more or less a very well thought out policy for the children. And in a very unprecedented, unusual year, this was the best that the CBSE could have come out with. And they have motivated the children. It has not become a COVID year. They have had studies. Every school has adapted to some form of the online teaching, and majority of the schools have done a good job at it. So definitely, I think it's very important that we should Let our children be what they are, and the universities should now open up as the new education policy is around. Let them take a mix of the subjects. These watertight compartments of science, commerce, and humanities should break now, and aptitude testing should be there so children do not drop out even after first year of IIT. And there is more of gender ratio which is moving up, so some kind of aptitude testing. I know India is a largely thickly populated nation, where with such large numbers, sometimes it is not possible even for the universities to have the right kind of students doing the right kind of courses. It's not possible. We are a nation of large numbers, but some kind of aptitude testing is there in very good colleges. They all have their own set of tests. I think that will help them, and I'm sure the good children, the deserving candidates, will reach the deserving and the good universities and colleges. So with this pandemic year, I think everybody has had to gear up, revisit the way we were working. The parameters have been redefined to a large extent. We have understood how the children are developing inside their homes. So yes, every cloud has a silver lining, and this pandemic has made us, I think, more aware of all the challenges faced by our children, school, colleges, and everybody is working. I'm sure this year nobody's going to forget this pandemic era, and we will come out wiser and stronger and build better systems of our children to move forward.
Wonderful, ma'am. Mrs. Mukherjee, if I may come to you with the same question, ma'am, do you think uh, things will change, or do you think it's just a temporary elastic phase and we'll just move back to how things were? Ma'am, if you could please unmute yourself.
Definitely, things have already started changing, and it has changed. And in fact, pandemic has taught children a very important value in life, that is resilience. Confined at their homes, they have learned a lot of things. They have learned to manage themselves. They have learned to upgrade themselves. Day-to-day situations, difficulties. They learn to tackle also. So, and not only that, due to the technology. As I told, there's a paradigm shift in the entire sectors, not only in the education sectors, in the industrial sectors also. And this change will continue. In the teaching learning process, the blended education will continue. We will not switch back to the conventional process. It will be a blend of the offline and online education, with a lot of new technology being incorporated. With the new education policy and its the new changes that are coming up, I'm sure the schools will take it up. Rote learning will somehow be replaced by conceptual learning, concept clearing, and that will be the most important focus for learning.
I think we will all remember the lessons taught by the pandemic, and with the CBSE now bringing in the competency based questions also, they will not be forgotten. They will grow, and everybody has realized somewhere where all we missed, and how we were able to assess our children on the forms and the MCQs. And I think MCQs require more in-depth comprehensive learning and understanding. So I do not think that we will forget it, though yes, human memory is very short and we may come back to our old normal self also. But definitely children have been empowered with technology, and teachers also have been enabled to use technology to their benefit. Definitely we'll never go back to the prehistoric era now. We will march ahead with technology, and more options will be given to the children. Even the parents nowadays pitch in, and they are also encouraging the children to follow their passions. They are not dictating any longer. Even the best of the child who's scoring 90 plus is not being forced to take up PCM. Now the parents are supporting. The school also accepts it. Yes, go in for humanities, go in for commerce, go in and pursue whatever you want, but be good at it. And we are ready to provide them support. Today, we are not only providing support to our weak students, we are providing to the gifted children. We are making independent lesson plans. We have all introduced differentiated learning lesson plans for our children. So much is being done. Children with special needs have been recognized. And this unusual time has made us really look into things very, very seriously. And somewhere the accountability of the schools also has increased now. The schools which have done well, those who have remained connected, those who have offered them more than the PDFs from the NCERT site, are definitely being recognized for the work that they are doing. And the choice of subjects, career orientation, nothing stopped. Everything was online and everything connected. The children are now more connected. They want to come back to school, which they never did in the pre-pandemic. Now they want to come back. They are listening to the teachers. There's a mix of everything, but a very positive. Uh, the children are doing well. In fact, some of the children who were preparing for the higher competitions, they said they got more time to do self-study because they were at home. They did not have distractions. So the results have gone up for the children who were really focused. The children who were not doing so well also became the first bench children, and they were also looked up by the teachers so well. So whichever program was conducted by the school was well received by the parents. For a change, parents became a partner in the learning of the children. Their expectations also have become little realistic from the children when they saw the classrooms in the homes. So I think now everybody has pitched in. I'm sure this time is going to remain in the memory of all. And definitely the college, when we at schools are doing so much, I'm sure higher education with more resources, more research must be ready to receive our children and offer them more benefits of education.
Wonderful, ma'am. We have a few questions from the audience. I'll just read out the questions. Any of you can feel free to come in and answer, please. We have N. Priyadarshini Narayan asking, good evening. Is it possible to suggest a few reliable career guidance people or institutions? Would you have any recommendations?
That depends on the city to city. We'll have to, of course, be on the net. We are coming from school background. So for us, our career counselor and the principal and all the other subject HODs work together and we create our own career material that we give to our children. We invite our alumni. We invite the people who are renowned in a particular field. We also take the help of parents who have made it big in their careers as resource people. So definitely we call upon people to guide our children who are established, whom we can look up to with reliability, and who can guide the children to the courses which are authentic. So I think every institution and for people at large, we have to log on to the websites and look at the reviews. That is the only way. And every city has their own robust system of career counselors who are established. We should try to approach the people who have a steady record so we can lead our children to reliable information.
Wonderful.
Here I feel even parents play a very important role. Parents are the ones who facilitate the career selection by giving children wings to choose what they want to pursue as a career. So the role of the parents is very important because they should first know their children, what they would like to aspire. So I would suggest the parents that help your children discover his or her passion. Motivate your child in pursuing that passion. And in some cases, help the child understand, if possible, the work life in a chosen career by associating with professionals in the field. That would help the children, and it will also motivate the children to take a decision for a particular career.
If the career guidance is not given to the children at the right moment, the void of guidance will confuse the child more than anything. If the adults around are not able to answer the queries of the children regarding the work, the world of work or careers, they should do some research, read a lot of print material which is given. A lot of resources are easily available nowadays at the click of a button. But definitely everything on the net should not be trusted. And there are a lot of printed material also, and there are people around in every school, every college, every university has a very strong career counseling cell. I think if we, in fact, if we are not very sure of the private practitioners, we should approach the counseling cells of the colleges and the universities of every city. They can guide us and lead us to an authentic, reliable, validated information. But void of guidance misleads the children and makes them disinterested in learning more about the careers. So the parents and the adults around should be very observant of the child's need when the child can be persuaded to learn more about the career. We have to be with the children. As we always say, spend quality time with your child. Be it a teacher needs to be observant. If the child is showing some interest, the teacher can guide, of course. And if the parent is also observant, whenever they feel the child is ready to hear the information, it should be given timely. And the amount of information that we dispense to a child should be appropriate to the age of the child also. A child nowadays, all children are very career oriented. They all have dreams. And for us, it's very important we help them to dream. We help them to set a goal. And then once they know what they want to do, help them to achieve it. That is how we as adults facilitate our children to achieve their optimum. So by guiding the child at the right moment with an appropriate information and interesting information as per the age of the child, until the child is ready to take on facts and figures and research figures, it is better that we inculcate in them a desire to learn about it. And that only a parent or a teacher can do. So I think we should first pay attention to our child, maybe in the class or at home, and then slowly build it up and then take it to a professional.
Here again, I would like to say that in our school, we have a process where we conduct an annual career fair. We invite our parents, the parent and the child visits the different, stalls and the different career organizations. They put up the stalls. Not only that, there is a talk conducted by different experts from different professions. And the children, they discuss the career with the parents. They resolve their queries. It is a one-to-one interaction. And that this, we have got a very good response. And here again, we emphasize on the non-conventional careers like journalism, fashion designing, animation, sculpture, so banking, finance. So these professionals are invited and we get a very good response from the students and the parents.
Yes, in nowadays universities around our schools are always ready to help us, and design, architecture, everything is available now because universities are also looking for good candidates. They approach us and they give very in-depth information about the courses, the cost of the course, the accreditation from where they are recognized, affiliations. They give very appropriate information. And annual fairs of career that we all hold also help. But universities nowadays are playing a very big role in approaching the schools, so that even they need students who are good at the job, at the courses that they have. So even it helps a lot. And I think every school is doing their bit, really doing their bit, and calling the resource people to our classes also really helps at times.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for such a comprehensive answer. I will come back on the parents' point though a little bit. There's a question that asks, do you think NTSE is still serving the purpose of identifying the talents in science and maths for students? Is there anything in place for arts and commerce?
NTSE serves the purpose because it prepares the child to face the competition, to assess whether he or she can finish up the entire syllabus of 9th and 10th before even the first term comes. And it includes maths, science, social studies, and mental reasoning. So that is the first step when the child is facing the competition. It is a precursor to the IITs and the NEETs and the other competitions which follow. If the child is able to ascertain at that time whether he or she is ready to give that kind of study time to himself or herself and build upon it. So being an NTSE scholar today also serves a big purpose in it's not a scholarship, but it is a bent of the mind, the preparation that NTSE gives to a child to prepare for the future competitions. For the arts, for the humanities, and for commerce, there are Olympiads, which I'm sure all schools are doing. They make the child ready to face the learning into the application part. The kind of question that Olympiads ask are the application based, the HOTS are there. So the higher order thinking, the application based questions are there in the Olympiads, and they make them ready. We have Olympiads in all the exam, we have assets. So there are a lot of exams which every school is doing at their levels to make children ready to face the competition after the +2 stage. And NTSE, I think, though it has lost its sheen, but it prepares the children to face the future.
NTSE also helps the child to assess his basic concepts in science and maths. Where does he stand? So that is, I think, a very important examination at that level, and students should go for it.
Wonderful. If I can just come back to that point about parents as counselors, Now, arguably, there's a spectrum of parents, right? On one end would be the extremely, what would I say, extremely progressive parent who would let the child have a lot of choices and perhaps is the perfect partner to the school in the journey of, the child's teaching, learning, and growing up. On the other side is that parent who's trying to live through the child vicariously and is therefore not giving the most appropriate career advice, to put it mildly, right? Disillusionment of their own jobs often lead them to, portray a certain job in a light that is not right for the child. So there's this question also that's just come up that says, should parents choose careers for their wards, or should children be allowed to choose their own careers? How do you make parents a part of this process?
That is what I said. The past few years, we had noticed this, that parents try to dominate over the children and they want the child to take that career which he or she could not fulfill. So there's a kind of, dominance playing over the children. So to avoid this, definitely at that time, our school counselor pitches in, there's career counselor and is done. Parents are counseled and we definitely try to make the parents understand. But that is the reason we have started involving parents into the career counseling. So they are a part of it. When they are exposed to different careers, even the parents are not aware of many careers, the new careers that have come up, the job prospects, the like remuneration. So when they come to know, when they are aware of these things, so they also, help the child to grow and take up those careers. So that is how we are trying to involve the parents in the past few years, and that has yielded results. Yes, of course, there is still some opposition. Parents still have their own reservations. We try to convince them through counseling.
I think there are two viewpoints of this. Parents are very scared for their children. They want them to have an assured lifestyle. They want to have them assured income. So they sometimes pressurize the child and their expectations may be unrealistic. The child is not ready to take on their pre-decided careers. But sometimes, yes, the parents are progressive. Of course, they will help the child to do what is best. But sometimes the children also are not very sure of what their strengths and weaknesses are. So basically, I don't think there ever exists a foolproof formula of a child becoming a success, even if the child is allowed to follow his dreams or if the child is forced into something. Both can go wrong. It depends upon the child, the environment, the circumstances, the readiness for the child to enter that particular profession. So it's a very complex decision and a very complex environment where we all live in to make us a success or just have a disaster at us. So yes, it's a blend of the parents that I think would be the best, who are aware of the child's competencies, who are very realistic in the expectation. When I know my child is just an average child and I push him or her into IIT, that would be foolish. But if I know my child is very good at creative arts or maybe very good at communication, and if I don't let the child follow the passion, then also it's a crime. So it has to be a blend of both. Parents have to partner the growth of the child. It is they who are going to make sure that the child is able to follow his dream, provide financially for that child till his dream becomes a reality, provide for the coaching, all the strategies that are needed for a child to be successful. So parents have to be roped in to make a decision for the child. Sometimes the child may be brilliant and the child may want to become a surgeon, but the parents just do not have funds. If the school does not have any system where we can enable the child financially to pursue that course, that it will be a disaster. It will be very unrealistic for the child to pursue a dream which requires a lot of money to build up. So parents have to be made a part of the decision-making process because they are very important stakeholders in the decision of the child. So definitely, right, I think in the schools, when we have a PTM, the parents are made aware of the strength and the weakness of the child. The teachers upfront give them a very honest, comprehensive assessment of the child's personality, where the child is leading, where the child is good at, where the child is weak at. And somewhere in the beginning of the session, we all do in the front of our almanac, my strength, my weakness, my goal. So there the parent is given a chance to mold the child. Slowly, if the child can be molded, see, ultimately career guidance and counseling both help the child to reveal what is best for himself or herself. It's a very, very long process. It doesn't happen overnight, or just in a senior secondary school, you decide and you happen to do it. So the child has to be molded into either believing in himself and following a dream, or into doing something which is safe and secure, where the parent can give the required support to the child to become successful. Yes, it is a best thing where the child and the parent both are in sync and they both partner the journey ahead. But definitely parents are a very important part. They should not be unrealistic. They should not force the burden of their unrealized dreams upon the shoulder of the child. But definitely they have to partner, they have to support, they have to be creating a conducive environment where the child can learn and grow and do whatever the child wants. Unfortunately, all kinds of positive things don't come together. There are always struggles and challenges, and that is what makes life interesting. So I'm sure all the parents today are aware, very aware nowadays, and they are eager to help the child. But still, there are a lot of restraints, and the schools and the counselors should help the child make a decision which is realistic, keeping the parents also in mind.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. This could be a much longer discussion, but because of paucity of time, I would have to end this here. But both of you, thank you. Thank you so much for your views. Before I call upon Achin to do the official vote of thanks, as somebody who has a few gray hairs, here is my advice to every student out there who's listening in. This comes not from me, but from Confucius, who says, choose a job you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. Well, Achin, with that, I would now invite you for the vote of thanks. We've had a fantastic discussion. Over to you.
Really, really wonderful discussion. The best part of it is I saw so much seamless interaction, free flow of thoughts. That's exactly how we want our Together for Education sessions to be. Really, really wonderful. Sharmila ma'am, I think you made some very, very good points. And I really like the opening statement, the fact that every child is a winner. I think all of us in this forum completely agree with you that each child is uniquely gifted, uniquely talented. So it's just a matter of us working together with the child and finding out what he or she wants to pursue. And I always feel that when a child doesn't do well in academics, I think it's nothing to do with intelligence. It's only to do with engagement. And if we are not able to engage the child appropriately, I think a child doesn't fail, the entire system fails. It calls for self-introspection on our part. I think each and every one of us who are part of the educational ecosystem. I'm also very, very happy and impressed to know about the activities clubs in your school. So many wonderful activities. Really, I'm sure your students are very lucky. So to get so much of encouragement from a senior educator like you, so many activities. And yes, ma'am, you're completely right. Last 18 months, there has been a huge shift in terms of virtual teaching. And I think you very rightly mentioned that technology today has really changed our lives in a very big way. So to that extent, I'm sure it will only make education far more enriching, far more engaging, and be an aid to teachers. Teachers will always be the most important part of the educational ecosystem. So schools and teachers are irreplaceable. We at Notebook believe it. But the whole objective is to empower the teachers, support the teachers, and that at Notebook also is a humble endeavor. So I think some wonderful points, ma'am, and also I think non-conventional careers, that the term that you referred to, we completely agree with you on that. It's very, very important. So I think it's very important to be aware about the choices that you have in hand. Very often, especially if you go to B towns, C towns, many cases, first generation learners, at times, unfortunately, there is very little guidance available at hand. So naturally, students go for few conventional options. So I think that is where teachers and schools have a huge role to play. And I'm sure that is being played out. Today, if we see so many youngsters doing fantastic, doing so well, I'm sure there are many successful educators behind there, making those right decisions, right choices. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for taking your time out and being a part of this gathering. Rita, ma'am, I sincerely thank you for your time. I think you made some very wonderful points, man. Be it in terms of exploring his or her inner self, in terms of taking a 360-degree overview, which I also believe is very important, upskilling and making informed choices. Also, ma'am, with regard to aptitude testing, I think that is one area which is very, very important, but very often overlooked. It's not only a question of skills, but also a question of your aptitude, your natural inclination towards something. So to that extent, we completely agree with you. And yes, the new education policy indeed is very forward-looking, be it in terms of flexibility, in terms of subject choices, or be it in terms of gap years. Naturally, of course, very forward-looking. So the whole now it comes to implementation, and I guess that is where all stakeholders of the education ecosystem need to join hands and ensure that the policy is implemented not only in letter but in spirit as well. So I think some wonderful points we covered today. Great flow of thoughts, and I'm sure our esteemed educators today present here found this to be tremendously value-adding. Some great points, of course. I thank all of you for being a part of this. Thank you. Take care and goodbye.
Thank you.